For the PSA video, I was the person who put the video together and edited it. I also was the one who did the introduction. I chose to edit the video because I have worked with iMovie before and knew how to use it. My group members sent me the interviews that they did and also the PowerPoint slides, and I created voiceovers to talk about the slides and also edited the interviews and pictures. One way I could have improved my section is by being more organized and being a little bit more clear on what I wanted from the rest of the group. Another thing I'm going to talk about is our target audience. The way we chose our target audience is by talking about the best way we could save pit bulls. We finally decided that if people were less scared of them and stopped blaming the pit bull for their bad actions and started blaming the human, we could save more of these wonderful pit bulls. It could also help by having someone adopt a pit bull and showing their family and friends that these dogs are very sweet and could help change their minds about it also. It could also get people to vote against breed restrictions and could potentially become advocates for pit bulls. Those are the reasons why we chose our target audience. We also kept changing our topic throughout the semester. We finally came to this decision to not just focus on dogfighting, but focus on the dog that is centered around dogfighting. Our purpose of our video was to change people's negative perspectives on pit bulls. Throughout the video, we gave evidence about how pit bulls are not an aggressive breed, and by showing enough evidence, we could change the minds of everyone and save the lives of the pit bulls. The message for our audience is that pit bulls are not all mean and aggressive. They can be amazing pets and just need love and attention. The sources that we chose really helped get our message out also. The primary source that we used were photos and videos of pit bulls from the Humane Society and an interview. The interview showed that people are scared of pit bulls because they see one mean pit bull and now people think they are all mean just because the pit bull is associated with dogfighting. The pictures and videos showed that these pit bulls are not aggressive and just want love and attention because no one will give it to them. The pit bull that Lori and Cheyenne played with was so overjoyed that he was getting attention, which shows that these animals deserve a life where people are not scared of them. There was also a secondary source that showed a picture of a temperament test of the pit bull versus some popular small dog breeds. The pit bull breeds passed and the small popular breeds did not. The smaller breeds had shown to be more aggressive and more likely to bite their owners and more people and dogs. But because they are so small, there are not any reports of attacks from these dogs. This temperament test clearly shows that the pit bull is not an aggressive breed versus the Dachshund, Chihuahua, and Corgi. There is so much proof out there that proves that pit bulls are not the aggressive breed many think they are, but all they hear about are dog fights. But it wasn't the decision of the pit bulls to start the sport of dogfighting, it was the humans. Our primary and secondary sources show our target audience what they need to see to change their minds about pit bulls.
Unveiling project, my section will be explaining the setup of the PSA video and how as a group we decided to make the video known to the public and how to get people aware of our PSA. Our PSA video was broken up into 5 main points. First off, we had our introduction, which allowed the audience to become aware of the purpose of our video and explain what exactly was going to happen during the PSA video. The second situation is an interview with a UK student. Then we have footage from the Lexington Humane Society, scholarly research about pit bulls, and then a section explaining of organizations that have been developed to change the perspective on pit bulls. The introduction starts out by playing a song by Billy Currington called Like My Dog. The reason this song was picked is because people who have animals kind of know that these dogs are families, and also people who don't even like dogs. It's a song that allows them to kind of connect and understand the PSA, and it makes a certain tone for our video. Also, during the video, a song by John Shipp is played, and it is called Pitbull Blues, which obviously went perfect with our video considering it is solely based off of pit bulls and the image that pit bulls are given. For our student interview, the reason that this interview was placed into the PSA is the girl, Nicole, who is being interviewed, had a negative experience with a pit bull growing up, and we used her to allow us to gain credibility through the viewers to show that if, even though she had a negative experience growing up, that her opinions could change and how we could change her opinion. And the use of the interview was just to gain credibility through the viewers. Next, we used Humane Society footage, and this footage comes in after Courtney gives a brief introduction. And this first set of footage is a line of pit bulls that are all in cages, and we decided to use this footage because it shows that even at the Humane Society, the majority of the animals there are pit bulls, and it shows that each of the pit bulls greeted us with eager faces, and none of them were timid or barking at us. And typically whenever we went, the dogs that were barking at us were little mixes of animals or even labs and stuff like that. It wasn't the pit bulls. Then the next footage of the Humane Society is of Lori and I playing with a pit bull puppy, and we used this puppy because he was one of the ones that stuck out to us the most, and he had been there since July. And we used this puppy and showed that no matter how rough you play with them, they're still eager and so excited. And we have footage of us shaking their face, which most people would think, you don't mess with a pit bull's face because they're going to bite you. And we show that that's not really the reality of it, and that the image people give these dogs isn't the true image. The next section is organizations created to change the image of pit bulls, and Jenna will explains more about the Flower Power usage and the Bickle Foundation, which is a Blackhawk player, and his organization is set up to change and get more pit bulls adopted, and that's mainly our goal too, which allows us to show that we're not only the ones trying to change this, there's people who are famous also trying to get involved in the harmful associations that are with the pit bulls. Finally, with advertising our PSA and getting it published, a great idea would be to have it on YouTube videos. And the reason for this is that before you watch a YouTube video, you have to watch some sort of advertisement for either 3 seconds, 10 seconds, or 30 seconds. And if we have our video, a short little snippet of the highlight playing, it grabs people's attention, and the more you see it, the more people will become observant of it and start to really think, because whenever you see an ad multiple times, it gets stuck in your brain. And so that would be our goal, and also putting the PSA in local news advertisements and stuff like that, because we are geared towards the citizens of Lexington. So we would want our local people to become involved and become aware of the situations that are going on.
The rhetorical styles we used in our PSA are ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is an appeal to ethics. We used ethos in our video by conducting our own research and doing our own observation. Countless times we've heard negative things about pit bulls, like how they're mean, and so we decided to go to the Humane Society to see for ourselves. At the Humane Society, about half of the dogs were pit bull mixes. While walking around, we decided to see how each of them would react to us. We let them sniff our hands and then proceeded to stick our fingers into the holes, and instead of them biting them, they rubbed up against it because they just wanted to let us pet them. After that, we decided to see how a pit bull would act in a playroom all by himself, and when they brought him in, all he wanted to do was lick our faces and roll over so we could rub his belly. There was absolutely no biting or attacking. Another way this style was used was by including two different organizations that are pit bull advocates, one being a photographer, Sophie Gammond, and the other being Brian Bickle, an NHL player for the Chicago Blackhawks. Sophie Gammond received a lot of positive attention after these flower power photos surfaced. These photos helped people view pit bulls as elegant and beautiful. According to her website, sophiegammond.com, the flowers symbolize the ephemeral quality of life, reminding us that these creatures are fragile and precious. Brian Bickle has created a foundation called Brian and Amanda Bickle Foundation. Bickle has a huge following, so him shining positive light on pit bulls has turned more people into pit bull lovers. Many people have adopted from this foundation and other shelters because of him. Pathos is an appeal to emotion. We use the style in our video in many ways. We used two songs that grabbed the audience's attention. The lyrics of one of the songs talked about pit bulls and how they were misunderstood. Another way we use pathos is by the pictures and videos we use. We use footage from the Humane Society showing a couple of dogs, all pit bulls, next to each other. They looked sad and looked like they were prisoners. And this is also another picture we use from the Humane Society where it shows the dog just looking into Cheyenne's eyes and looking very cute. The last rhetorical style we use is logos. This is an appeal to logic. This was used in our video by providing concrete facts about pit bulls. We had a slide that debunked myths about them by giving correct facts. We also created a table of results from the American Temperament Testing Society. We listed the different breeds that fall under the general term pit bull. This table also allowed our audience to see that most pit bulls had great temperaments. There was also another chart that included these percentages of small dogs that were Chihuahuas, Corgis, and Dachshunds. This showed our audience that these dogs had better temperaments than the small dogs. And the campaign element that we used was a flyer in the mail, and this would be sent out every month. And every single month, we would be partnering with a shelter that is holding an adoption event, and we would be advertising them and their adoption just so more pit bulls could be adopted out. These would also be posted in many shelters and supermarkets and just local places where a lot of people could walk by it and see it. Our second campaign element is a 30-second radio commercial, and we decided to use this because it's the best way to reach a large audience all at once. And this can go hand in hand with the flyer because every time we give this 30-second radio commercial, it will follow up with the shelter that we're going to sponsor that month and the adoptions that are going to go along with it. And for my contributions to the video, they included an interview, table, charts, pictures, videos, and article titles. We used my interview because the interviewee didn't like pit bulls. She was actually scared of them because she had a bad experience with one when she was younger. The table in the video is from the American Temperament Testing Society, which is this one right here. And it shows the temperament of dogs under pit bulls, and it shows the audience that they're nice and there's nothing to be scared of. And there's also this chart right here that shows that it compares the pit bulls to the small dogs that are very popular, and it shows that they're much nicer than those small dogs are. And we also use pictures and videos from the Humane Society, such as this one, where it captures the love these dogs have to give and how sweet they are. And lastly, I had article titles that were supposed to be used while giving the interview, followed by the myths and facts slide, just to show that the news media portrays pit bulls in a negative manner.
The purpose of my section was to help our target audience, people who are scared or have negative views on pit bulls, to see that there are people out there today defending pit bulls. I talked about 2 different organizations, or people if you will, who started their own campaign to change people's opinions on pit bulls. Mainly I discussed why they started their campaign, their background on getting started, or what fueled the passion to stand up for pit bulls, so that our target audience could get a first-hand look at positive cases. I first talked about a photographer by the name of Sophie Gammon. She explains in her biography that she used to actually be afraid of pit bulls until she started volunteering at local shelters and was exposed to them more frequently. This sculpted her idea for her project called Flower Power: Pit Bulls of the Revolution. Sophie talks about how she decided to take on this project because she realized that pit bulls were being given false representation, which was leading to the mass numbers of pit bulls in shelters, pit bulls being abused and mistreated, and even put down. So her project is about these flower crowns that she constructed herself and would take with her to the shelters. She used the pit bulls at the shelters who were waiting to be adopted as the subject of her photos, and so she wanted to create a softer, sweeter image of these dogs. Sophie explained that many pit bulls are misrepresented in photographs, where photographers will use dark, rural areas and capture moments where pit bulls appear aggressive and their muscular bodies stand out. Sophie became an advocate who learned through her personal experiences that the media played a big role in what people saw when it came to pit bulls. So she is a prime example of a person who had a negative opinion about pit bulls, but over time is now helping to make a change to the image of pit bulls. We used Sophie as an example to help support the purpose of our PSA. We hope that by using her story, our audience would see a different side of pit bulls and help open their minds to the idea that pit bulls are not the problem, people are. I then went on to discuss an organization that started by an NHL player from the Blackhawks and his wife Amanda Bickle. To tell you a little bit about their story, they came to adopt a pit bull puppy from a drug addict owner. One of the common stereotypes associated with the pit bull image is the kind of people that own them and what sort of social class they reside in. This does not help their image in the eye of the public when it comes to the media. The Bickles shared that their hometown in Canada actually was going as far as banning pit bulls from the community. Around that time that this was happening, the Bickles were coming up with the idea of helping to raise awareness for the breed, as they had found it in their hearts to rescue a pit bull from neglect and abuse. The ban had gone into effect, and the Bickles were not allowed to leave their home with their puppy without having animal control called or people acting as if the dog were going to attack. This is a prime example of what the media has done to portray pit bulls as mean, aggressive animals. The Bickles claimed their puppy was not at all interested in people in their surrounded areas. This shows that people just assumed that if they got close to the puppy, they would be harmed. So this led them to the start of the Bickle Foundation, where they were determined to raise money and awareness for pit bulls. Their foundation has created several different ways for people to get involved. They started a project where they Blackhawk team players with pit bulls up for adoption in a calendar shoot, With the money the organization raises, they have been able to help rehabilitate pit bulls so that they are better able to adjust to new homes. They even have studies done to support that pit bulls are capable of being support animals for children who suffer from abuse, the other side of the foundation focus. We chose to talk about the Bickle Foundation to show the passion behind the story. A young couple who were living their lives until their lives were being affected by bad images pit bulls have been given, and now they are fighting for change as well. For this section, there were just 3 secondary sources used: Sophie Gammon's photography website and the Bickle Foundation website, where I was able to gather all of my information and also take images from. I felt as though going straight to the source would be the most helpful route to go for presenting information in my section of the PSA. I felt that using these secondary sources would help bring our purpose full circle and really trying to make our argument. They effectively show a point A, point B scenario where people have one idea about pit bulls, but through experience and current events realize they were wrong and stand up for the fight for pit bulls. Therefore, change occurs. The overall message here was for the audience to see clearly cases where pit bulls were being misrepresented. In a way, using these examples is like telling a story through the eyes of the pit bull, where they are telling stories that really showcase their positive qualities. As far as picking these examples go, I felt they stood out the most. They had the most unique stories behind the foundations as to what fueled their passion to advocate for pit bulls. The only improvements I would make on my section is a transition from discussing Sophie's photography to talking about the Bickle Foundation. I felt as though it was hard to transition between the two as they are entirely different types of pit bull support, however share a common goal. I also would have liked to have found more examples to share in our PSA, but for time purposes that would not have worked out. I think when making an argument, the more support that could be used to back up our claim would certainly help the audience understand. I also did the conclusion for the PSA video. I basically just restated in a summary all of what was put together in the video. I did not feel as though I had a strong conclusion as it was rushed in the making and we had very little time to spare when it came down to the editing of the final cut.